thank you, Nakia, for that warm, wonderful, very, very detailed introduction. I'm very appreciative. I'm also very grateful for the description that you gave of our important collaboration together. This is very important to MIT. Ms. Guler, Sabancı, Dean Nihat, Dean Nakia, President Nihat, members of the Sabancı University community and some of the MIT community, members of the press, members of the educational and business leadership. I pledge to you that this relationship between Sabancı University and MIT is not only important to MIT, but will make a positive difference for the students of Sabancı University, yes, for companies in Turkey who gather around this great university, but also more fundamentally for economic development in this region and beyond. Because our purpose here is a very serious and a very deep and, as Dean Nakia said, a very long-term purpose. Our goal is to create greater opportunities for Sabancı University students. That's perfectly appropriate, but it's not enough of a reason for all of you to gather this evening. And as we work together to increase the profit-making opportunities for Turkish companies, that's worthwhile. But it isn't worthy enough to bring two universities together in this way in a long-term partnership. We really do intend together to learn more about dynamic business practices in this rapidly growing region. We also intend to make a positive difference. We hope a large difference, but we know a positive difference to the continued development of Turkey, the continued leadership role that Turkey needs to play in the region and in the world. I hope to take a few minutes this evening to talk a bit about business leadership and economic development. When we talk about business and we talk about management, the typical characteristics of managers that people imagine schools of management teaching include knowledge about business functions, marketing, finance, and so on. They include knowledge of business institutions, manufacturers, retailers, and so on, and knowledge about particular products and services, pharmaceuticals, cars, automobiles, and so on. And for much of the history of management education, that's what management was imagined to be. In the 1930s, if you were a manager, you were a manager of cars, or you were a manager of soap. That is what you were imagined to know. By about the 1950s, if you were a manager, the concept of management had broadened to a sense that you know about institutions that play a role in the economy. Institutions like manufacturers, or retailers, or importers, or farms. And so your knowledge base wasn't just a product, it was an institution. And it wasn't until the 1960s through the early 1980s that a sense of management as, yes, about products and about institutions, but also about the business functions, finance, accounting, marketing, managing people at work, became a new notion of what management was. And still, you know, it wasn't enough. Because as the 1980s showed us, and you might suggest that the last few years have reminded us, it isn't enough to know about the levers that create short-term profitability. It is a requirement that management leaders understand certain responsibilities that they have to their companies and that their companies have to the broader community. And without those understandings, all of the knowledge about products and institutions and business functions won't save your business. So, in taking just a few minutes now to touch further on the sense of management leadership and how it plays a role in economic development, I want to tell you about three of the aspects of management practice, management leadership, management education that I believe are crucial for effective management leaders today. I know make a huge difference in economic development and are very much the focus of our two schools of management. So the first of those is fact-based decisions. Really understanding business processes as complex systems, customers, suppliers, throughout the organizational systems, the human parts as well as the mechanical parts of those systems. Great management leaders commit their organizations to continued learning about those systems. And I want to say a kind of humility, because they understand that we must act as we learn using what we know. Not using only our instinct, not using only what our gut tells us, but make a commitment in our greatest organizations to take the time to do the experiments, to work with academics in some cases, to find what works for our business, and then to drive business decisions based on those learnings. There's an important role in economic development that schools of management play in pushing organizations or helping organizations to pursue that kind of decision making. I could say much more about it, but it takes a very special kind of management leadership to be willing to step back and to say, we will collect information, or we have collected information, and using that knowledge, my instinct may say one thing, but I have to consider what the facts say. And if you look around the world at the places where very rapid economic development is happening, it is, in most of these cases, both through use of scientific information, through use of different kinds of new kinds of databases around customer decisions and supplier management, rapid growth through innovation, through business processes, is being driven by a commitment to this deep understanding of systems and fact-based decisions. In addition to fact-based decision-making, there's a second element of management leadership, or if I can say, a new sense of management leadership that drives economic development, and that is a commitment to innovation and entrepreneurship. Lots of people talk about innovation and entrepreneurship without really emphasizing that it is, for most people, the opposite of management. When they think about management, what do they think about? They think about efficient processes. They think about saving money. Innovation and entrepreneurship is in many ways the opposite of that. And if, as a management leader, you are very serious about pursuing not only growth for your company, but playing a role in regional economic development, the commitment to innovation can't be tomorrow. It can't be in the next quarter, and it can't be with the next round of people that we hire. It's a decision that we don't think about every day, but that we make every day. How serious are we about a commitment to innovation that has a long-term payoff for our organizations? And one of the great things that you see about Turkish firms now, and I believe in the immediate future, is that they get that they understand the importance of that commitment to deep innovation driven from management leaders who understand its importance. The third aspect of management leadership that I wanted to touch on is the understanding of a social purpose for your organization. I don't mean ethics here. I mean the ability to understand deeply and give voice to the way that your organization, all of our organizations, are important to the world at large and justify the world's interest in us. So it isn't just compliance with the law. It isn't just narrowly a sense of ethics, but values go further to enable leaders, if they do have this understanding, to speak with passion, both inside the organization and to the world at large, about this role, this worthiness that the organization has. And I can tell you that our students and Dean Nakia's students have a very richly textured understanding for firms that they want to join about these kinds of issues. Is there not only profitability, not only some growth potential, but is there a sense of worth and purpose in this organization? You know, I don't also just mean that they recycle paper, you know. This isn't narrowly about environmentalism. Maybe to take a challenging example, in the world of investments and finance, many of the leading companies in that sector have been taken to task and challenged as to the worthiness of the social purpose that they fulfill. And the best leaders there, if you listen to them, understand and find ways to pursue in their organizations as well the social need to bring capital to the places it can do the greatest good, and to bring risk to people who understand that risk and are willing to bear it. When you talk about finance and investments in that way and you ask, does the world need more of that? Everyone says, yeah, we absolutely need more of that. But they're not sure that the firms necessarily are providing that right now. So in these areas of fact-based decisions, a serious pursuit of innovation and entrepreneurship, and an appreciation and pursuit of a social purpose for every organization, leaders do make a difference in the attractiveness of the regions that they work in. They attract more people to those regions. They do contribute through the success of their organizations to economic development. And we as schools of management are committed to help those leaders and those organizations in this regard. Now, when you think about management leadership, a lot of people talk about charisma, you know, and communications, and yes, and ethics also. And that's great. But among the characteristics that we as schools of management build toward these ends, we go beyond ethics and talk about values. Not telling people what to do and what to believe, but asking them to develop their understanding of what organizations provide that is broadly valuable. We know that in pursuing innovation and entrepreneurship, there are huge risks, and some of those risks are personal. And so we do experience-based, some project-based exercises with our students that take them out of their comfort zone by design and build in them resiliency, an ability to deal with great amounts of uncertainty, and yes, a greater sense of social purpose. We have a course at MIT, a global entrepreneurship lab course, where our students go to a variety of countries. One of those is Uganda. Last year when they were in Uganda, their task in groups of students was to design new, financially sustainable methods to get HIV/AIDS treatment out of the urban areas and into rural settings. The students do have a business purpose. There is a real learning about marketing and finance and so on, but they come back from experiences like that changed in fundamental ways. They ask themselves, what is the long-term purpose of the organization I'm going to work for? And they understand more fundamentally that they as individuals can make a huge difference in any kind of organization if they have the ability, the resiliency to work through